Today's lesson is going to be centered around understanding figurative language in poetry. If you go into Schoology, you will see that you also have an assignment that has some fill-in-the-blank notes that you will need to fill in as we were going along. There's also a portion where I will do some slight teacher modeling, and then the last page you will do on your own. So please take a second, pause this video if you need to, but go ahead and open up this document so that you can fill in your blank notes as we are moving along. So what is the meaning of figurative language? Figurative language is to a writer what a paintbrush is to an artist. Figurative language brings color to writing. Figurative language can take something simple or flat and transform it into something multidimensional. Figurative language are the words that an author uses to create imagery and pictures for the reader. So what is considered figurative language? These should all be words that we've heard before: similes, metaphors, personification, alliteration, onomatopoeias, hyperboles, and allusion. A simile is a comparison of two items using the words like or as. Example, her hair is like a sea of knotted snakes. We're comparing her hair to a sea of snakes. What is a metaphor? Metaphor is a comparison of two items without using the words like or as. He is a monster, so we're comparing a person to a monster, probably because they have really bad behavior or they've been really mean or acted out. What is personification? Personification is giving animals and objects human-like characteristics. The trees sang to the wind. So the trees didn't actually sing, but, maybe in their rustling of their leaves and the blowing of the wind, it seems like they would be singing. What is alliteration? Alliteration is a sound device. It is the repetition of the first consonant sounds in several words. So an example, we were all up wide and wondering. We were all up wide-eyed, and wondering. So with this one, it can be subtle. It doesn't have to be Peter Piper picked a patch of peppers, pickles, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be that consistent. What is an onomatopoeia? An onomatopoeia is a word that can stand in as a sound and create an effect in the literature or poem. The whip slapped the concrete and snapped. So slapped and snapped are both examples of an onomatopoeia. A lot of times you hear things like boom and bang and crack, but slapped and snapped would also qualify. What is an hyperbole? A hyperbole is an exaggeration to cause an emotional effect. I was bored to tears in the 2-hour class. You literally didn't cry, but you were probably pretty bored. And then what is an allusion? And an allusion is a figure of speech that refers to a well-known story, event, person, or subject in order to make a comparison in the reader's minds. You guys actually did an IXL lesson on allusions earlier in the year. So your artwork is a Van Gogh. Van Gogh is a famous artist that most people at least know by name for completing like Starry Night. All right, so in this next part, the teacher model, we're going to look at lines that contain figurative language. So on the second page in your worksheet, it is this poem, Once by the Pacific by Robert Frost. The shattered water made a misty din. Great waves looked over the others coming in, and thought of doing something to the shore the water never did to land before. The clouds were low and hairy in the skies, like locks blown forward in the gleam of eyes. You could not tell, and yet it looked as if the shore was lucky in being backed by a cliff. The cliff in being backed by a continent. It looked as if a night of dark intent was coming, and not only a night, an age, Someone had better be prepared for rage. There would be more than ocean water broken before God's last put out the light was spoken. So we've got some examples of personification in the great waves looked over. The water never did to land before. We've got a metaphor in a reference to an animal here. In the clouds were low and hairy in the sky. Clouds, aren't necessarily hairy. Simile uses like to compare to hair, like locks blown forward in the gleam of eyes. Personification, the shore was lucky. Shore can't actually be lucky. We got another simile, uses as to compare to the darkness down here. It looked as if a night of dark intent. And then we do have an allusion down here in this last line where it says before God last put out the light was spoken. So if you do go over into your worksheet, you have some questions that go along with this poem. You should fill in the poem notes that are over here, the examples of figurative language that I just noted. And then I do want you to go ahead and look through these questions. Who do you think is narrating the poem? What words are used to create imagery? When you finish with that, you're going to go to the next page and you're going to take a look at this poem right here, Young Sea by Carl Sandburg. And same thing, I want you to pull out the figurative language that you see and then answer the questions. Who's narrating the poem? What words does the poem use to create imagery? And then choose a line from the poem with figurative language and explain what the effect of the figurative language has on the poem or imagery.